and I want to say a big thank you to the People's Assembly for all the work it's done over a long period of time and continues to do by fundamentally challenging the austerity economics and austerity politics that we're dealing with at the present time, because we have not yet defeated austerity by any manner of means. It's fundamental to the script of the duopoly that is in Parliament at the present time. The one thing that the right were very keen to do after the 2019 election was to dismantle any notions of a foreign policy based on peace, and they wanted to dismantle any notion that the economy should be rejigged to work for redistribution of wealth and power and a fundamental transfer of that wealth and power. And that is what they've achieved with Rachel Reeves as Chancellor of the Exchequer and the policies that she's putting forward. So you have to look at the reality of what life is like for so many people in the country at the moment. Young people desperately in debt for reasons of high rent, for reasons if they've been to university of university debt, for reasons of low wages if they're in work. And the levels of personal debt and credit are absolutely enormous. That then leads into the housing crisis, where the housing waiting lists are massive. In my own borough, there are what we call it the Housing Needs Register, which has got 15,000 names on it. And in a very, very good year, the council will rehouse 1,000 people. So that's a minimum of, for most people, a 15-year wait to get council housing or housing association. And the lack of regulation of the private rented sector means that many simply cannot afford to get a flat of their own. They can only get one by sharing. And whilst I welcome the renters' bill that went through Parliament as far as it went, what it didn't do was regulate rents. It, yes, gave some security, which is obviously an improvement, ended no fault eviction, obviously an improvement, but it means that those people that are in receipt of housing benefit in the private rented sector, if it's under the local housing allowance, means their rent is paid by the state. If they're over the local housing allowance, it means they have to subsidise their own rent from their benefits. So in reality, there is a massive transfer of public funds into the private landlords' pockets by this system. And so it's these issues that have to be addressed. Likewise, the attack on disability benefits. I must say, even I thought I was hearing things when I listened to Liz Kendall saying she was going to take 5 billion out of the personal independence payments budget. And the week before, Starmer and John Healey had told us they're going to increase defence expenditure to 3% of GDP, then ultimately going on to 4% and higher, which means at least 13 billion a year more going on arms expenditure. They didn't succeed in getting the PIP cut through that they wanted, which was only because of a massive campaign, particularly by organisations of people with disabilities. So well done, all of them. But we're not out of the woods on it yet by any manner of means. The Timms review is still going on. The aspiration in the Treasury budgeting is to take that 5 billion out. So the campaigning mustn't stop. It must intensify and carry on. And instead, what I proposed in Parliament was that there should be a commission on disability poverty led by the organisations representing people with disabilities, not some Treasury-led system of trying to save money. And so there's that, and there's the two-child benefit cap, which consigns so many children, probably several million, to poverty as a result of it. And whilst they're pretending there are no cuts taking place in public spending, it's simply not true. They have put more money into health, but at the same time done more privatising in health, and at the same time cut all other government departments, have been asked to make what they now call efficiency savings rather than cuts. They actually amount to the same thing. You see it in every hospital, you see it in every care home, you see it in every school. Unnecessary vacancy factors, which means people are working much longer. I was talking to a group of nurses at hospitals around North London recently. Big call we made through the RCN, and they were just relating how much time they give in unpaid overtime at the end of each shift, waiting for a nurse to come on who's usually an agency nurse. And so that is unpaid work being given to the NHS by very dedicated nurses. Happens in local government, happens all over. So there are massive issues of anger. And the last thing I'd say on policy issues is that the point that Zara was just making about public ownership. The public ownership of water is, to me, an irrefutable case. It's a basic, absolute necessity. Very few countries in the world allow the private sector to run the water industry. Britain does. And the Secretary of State, Steve Reed, keeps telling all of us that he is fully wedded to tough regulation of the water industry. We've had so-called tough regulation for 30 years. We have more pollution than ever, more foul water than ever, higher water prices than ever, more burst mains than ever, more waste than ever. Why? Because the amount of money that's been taken out of the industry by hedge funds, investors, executive pay, you name it, it's gone out of the industry. So what's the answer? I think you and I, all of us, and speaking collectively here, would know what our answer would be. Their answer is to regulate the regulators and have a new regulator to regulate the regulations. It's bonkers. It's complete bonkers. It's bunkum. What we should be doing is taking the water industry as a whole into public ownership and not run it like a state institution where you have a board appointed by the government, run it at a regional river basin management style of things with workers' involvement, with local community involvement, etc., to make sure it's democratic and links up with the work of the Environment Agency. All very obvious stuff. And they then claimed that it would cost 100 billion to nationalize the water companies. We own it, as pointed out, the maximum cost is 5 to 15 billion, a big difference. And in any event, that would, for my book, be paid through treasury bonds, and the share price would be set by taking account of the pollution, the executive pay, the waste, and the excessive profits that have been made to show the water industry we mean business. All these things point to a complete failure of the political system in Parliament to deal with these issues. And so I stood as an independent a year ago, and thank you to all those that came and helped. We got an amazing result and we won. After a lot of thought, we've launched a new political party, yourparty.uk. That is the working name and working title. Obviously, a conference will finally decide on what the name should be and what the structure should be. And that is obviously a matter for comradely, intense debate on how we do it. But there's two things come from this. One is we've had 600,000 people sign up to it, which is far more than the collective membership of all the other political parties put together. So the number of people that have shown support and interest, they're not all members because the party isn't there to join. It will be in a matter of hours or days, but so it's nevertheless 600,000 is a massive figure by anybody's book. But also around the country there are very effective groups of independents. We're going to be working together, and many of those will have joined anyway, but I see a structure that engages all of them in our operations and in our work. Likewise, most, but not all, trade unions are affiliated to the Labour Party. All trade unions have political views. Every trade union member has views. And so it is a question of how that entity too is represented within the party. And likewise, the groups and campaigns such as People's Assembly, the disability campaigns, and so many others need to be there and need to be represented. And so I'm spending a lot of time talking to people, listening, getting lots of great ideas sent in, and we're sending out an email tomorrow to all of the 600,000 that have registered their names and shown their support for starting this party underway. This is an amazing opportunity to turn politics on its head, and it's beginning to have an effect even in the mainstream media. History was made this morning. Sky News reported an article I'd written in The Guardian without snide remarks, without snarling, without describing me as somebody with horns on and the devil incarnate. They actually quoted what I'd said. And so that's underway. The leadership, insofar as it is a leadership, because we actually want the whole thing to become an entirely democratic organization, is being stewarded through by the Independent Alliance MPs, the 6 of us. And we are just basically arranging a lot of meetings and rallies and things. I'm doing a big one in Lancashire on the 28th of 28th of August, as a way of sorry, no, Saturday is the 30th of August, as a big way of mobilizing people all over Lancashire, doing similar things all over the country, as a way of bringing people together, listening to all those views and taking it forward. We can turn this into something very powerful and very important and very special. It's not just about elections. Elections, of course, are important. Accountability of elected representatives, of course, is important. But real political power actually comes from what people do at the workplace in their community. And it is about ensuring that all of our active members are equally active within their communities. So we build that whole issue up. I attempted to turn the Labour Party into a community organising unit. We made some progress on that. The opposition was intense to doing it. And we learned, or I particularly learned an awful lot from that. So I'm determined that we're going to have community-based, democratic, determined party to bring about real change, real transfer of wealth, real transfer of power. And it's an extremely exciting prospect. 600,000 people signing up is not to be sniffed at, not to be sneezed at. It's an amazing achievement. And that's all happened in 168 hours. So we're underway. And I want to work with all of you in the People's Assembly. Thanks, Ramona, for inviting me on. And thank you all for all that you do to fight back against the mainstream. Against the received wisdom, you can't do anything. Against the received wisdom, there's no alternative to war. Yes, there is. Sustainability, peace, environment, humanity, human rights. We're the alternative to reform. And you know what? We're better, bigger, and stronger than reform. Thank you very much.